This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello YouTube, I'm the Star Child and welcome to Tentai Kansoku. We're continuing our way through the educational universe towards the sun of our next system. It's radiating with fond memories, especially for those of us who didn't have cable. That's right, we're arriving at the PBS solar system. Like we do with all of these full system explorations, let's take a look at the star before we continue on exploring those shows we all love, shall we? PBS, also known as the Public Broadcasting System, is a non-commercial, free-to-air public broadcaster that was founded in 1969 and began broadcasting in late 1970. It was started as a replacement to NET, or National Education Television, which had to shut down when the Corporation of Public Broadcasting and the Ford Foundation pulled their funding due to pressure from the Nixon administration. Sounds familiar, huh? We'll get there at the end of the video. As mentioned, they are publicly funded, which means though some of their funding comes from government grants, it's mainly funded by member stations and donation from local viewers. They did a lot of new stuff for a while, but the channel initially was started to create programming that most commercial networks neglected to. This includes informational TV shows as well as shows that spotlight education, culture, and the arts. PBS pretty quickly became known for iconic shows like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Sesame Street, Antique Roadshow, This Old House, and The Electric Company. And if you were like me and were a kid in the 90s and early 2000s, you're probably more familiar with PBS Kids.
Doink.
PBS began moving their kids' content to the PBS Kids precursor PTV in 1993, which was officially replaced by PBS Kids in 1999. Older shows like Sesame Street and The Electric Company were moved to this programming block, and were eventually accompanied by nostalgic legends like Reading Rainbow, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Arthur, Wishbone, and Dragon Tales. The time slot for PBS Kids varied by locale, but for me, I was usually able to catch it after school and sometimes on Saturday mornings. Apparently, there was a channel dedicated to PBS Kids programming exclusively, but I don't remember it, and it shut down anyway in 2005 after being deemed unsuccessful due to a lack of interest. However, in 2017, they relaunched the channel exclusively for PBS Kids due to a renewed demand for it. The shows on PBS Kids were not only academically educational, but also taught the value of kindness, understanding, inclusivity, and problem solving through character-driven storytelling. To this day, these shows are fondly remembered and valued for helping generations of children learn through these beloved shows. And as a kid, PBS was kind of not actually at war with other networks. Like, we were all kind of divided into factions. Are you a Disney kid? A Nickelodeon kid? A Cartoon Network kid even? If you were anything like me, you watched all of them. I never actually understood that, but then I realized later that it was because where most people in my area had cable, I grew up with satellite TV. I had a weird experience though, like the TV in my room didn't pick up the satellite for most of my childhood, and it had an antenna that literally only picked up PBS for some reason. So whenever my grandparents were watching TV in the living room, I could only watch PBS or play video games. And I also eventually would watch everything else when I could, so I ended up being able to relate to every kid at school when we talked about TV shows we liked. In recent years, PBS still focuses on its original programming, holding strong to being the go-to station for arts and culture as well as documentary pieces. They also have a decent amount of syndicated TV, which is great in my opinion because I love when new generations get to experience the things that we grow up with. For example, Bob Ross, whose show The Joy of Painting was in fact a PBS show, blew up with a lot of Gen Z during the pandemic, likely due to his calm and gentle way of speaking and the positive messages that he would drop in every episode. As for PBS Kids, they have a dedicated channel as I mentioned, and their website is still going strong with games and everything. I honestly didn't even know if kids' websites like this still existed, and it made me realize that there are so many kids' TV show based computer games from the early 2000s I could definitely talk about. There's a severe lack of children's spaces online these days, so I'm glad stuff like this still exists. I don't really hear kids talking about anything other than like Roblox and stuff. But I know a lot of websites like Toontown and Club Penguin are gone, so if anybody knows if there's anything else similar to that, let me know in the comments. Watching PBS always felt like, I don't know how to describe it, like more educational than other channels, which is funny because both Playhouse Disney and Nick Jr. had educational kid shows. I don't know why, and it's not just me who feels that way either. Maybe it was just because there were always various shows or episodes that try to instill this love of reading into us, but I always felt like I was in a library anytime I was watching PBS Kids. Like I mentioned in the Schoolhouse Rock video, it is so peaceful here. Even if the shows tackled a little more heavy themes, it always had a gentle hand that led us through everything, even conflict. And a lot of the shows emphasized the importance of kindness and understanding. I really love that PBS dedicated their mission to things like the arts and culture. A&E is another channel that started out like this, at least. It does stand for arts and entertainment after all, but they eventually just became like the reality TV and true crime channel for some reason. Arts and culture are the cornerstone of society in a lot of ways. There's a fundamental importance to these things. Art can be a way of expressing yourself or complex concepts in a way that transcends language. These things can encourage cultural understanding and enrich communities. There really isn't anything like it, which leads me to the status of PBS now. How has PBS been doing in this day and age? Well, not too good, unfortunately. It's funny, I was already planning on coming here before they entered the news recently. Remember when I said that PBS's predecessor shut down two major benefactors being bullied by the presidential administrator at the time? Yeah, history repeats itself and media censorship is nothing new. For those who haven't heard, the federal funding to various media outlets has been cut due to the current administration establishing a bill that took back funds that were once allocated to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Unfortunately, this includes PBS, along with NPR. I personally don't do politics, but this is blatant media censorship because one of the reasons stated for this decision was straight up because they felt like public broadcasting is biased, which, regardless of what side you're on, is objectively relative and true about literally every news outlet that exists in this day and age. The days of unbiased news reporting died when old media started competing with the internet, let's be honest. Though PBS is largely funded by private donations and such, the federal funding cuts may lead to programs being cut and even closures of smaller rural stations. A lot of those shows we saw as kids are in syndication now, and these cuts could mean that they would be lost to future generations, which I would hate to see considering how fondly they're remembered. And as I mentioned, their focus on the arts, culture, and teachings of general understanding and kindness is something that we all need right now more than ever. It would be a shame to lose something like this. PBS isn't taking this lying down, though. A statement put out by the station blatantly called the move unlawful. And on the brighter side of things, they put out so many memes and calls to action after this decision was made. Overall, they're working to find a solution to keep PBS going, and I know it sounds a little bleak, but there is something that you can do if you're interested. Consider donating to your local station. It's like they've been telling us since we were kids. It's all made possible by viewers like you. And that's where we're going to leave this little star to follow its warmth to the properties that rely on it. Give the video a like, comment your experience, and subscribe if you want to come on this nostalgia trip with us. Thanks for watching, and as usual, remember to embrace your inner child. Bye!